7 years ago, you saw how in a daring operation of the Mossad, we got the archives of Iran's nuclear program, plans to destroy Israel. We presented it to President Trump, to the world, to you, citizens of Israel. Today, right now in this operation, we completed the task. We struck the entire archive that included all the knowledge of Iran to build a nuclear bomb. Also that we did. Over decades, I told you that Iran will never have nuclear weapons. And indeed, in all our amazing operations that our fighters have conducted, we have sent down the drain Iran's nuclear program. If anyone in Iran will try to rebuild this plan, we will operate with the same intensity and ferocity. I return and say again, Iran will...
Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Me and my big mouth, you could fly a plane. Verbally, Air Force One. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War. I am your late night host here, Dean Ryan, who is still with you, surviving through the chaotic World War III, or as we coined it long ago, the nuke scare event. We made it. We made it this far. Isn't it great? Doesn't it feel wonderful? What you saw there was just the cold opening of, well, several people. The first one was the Dumbo of Israel there. Yeah, Netanyahu, who is, he can't get enough war. He can't get enough war because he knows where his fate lies. Yes, it lies in a chair that's highly electric, I believe. And you heard Donald Trump, who's now, well, he's now pivoting and making a turn. Can you feel it coming in the air tonight? I sure can. That's why tonight's episode is called Trump versus Israel. And I got to tell you, you know, this is what it's all about. It is applying pressure to people who are in government that are supposed to represent you. When you're not happy about something, you're supposed to apply pressure, because you have to understand too, Donald Trump is very insulated, very insulated. He has a kooky woman that follows him everywhere named Susie Q. Wallace or something of that nature, who is a dear friend of the Mossad agencies and other kind of swimming rats, and just Marco Rubio alone. Marco Rubio, I mean, I couldn't even imagine sharing a office with that rodent. So applying pressure applies results. And I think it comes with emotions. And hasn't everyone felt the emotions of just sinking, hopelessness, feeling great again? And we're all going through this incredible realm of bipolarhood together. And I couldn't ask for anything more. It's just so good when we're just bipolar together, I think. So tonight's a big show. We're going to be talking about a lot of, well, what we've been talking about for the last week. That's the Israeli, Iranian, and American, just a highly confidential war. Yes, the war of fortitude, the war of, you cross this line, we're going to annihilate you, and then we're going to win the belt back, then I'm going to finish you with a flying elbow, and I'm going to give you a leg drop. Yeah, that kind of war. To the war of everything's planned, to the war of, which I think is important, where we have to say no to war, but also build a coalition, because we can hope for the best. We can hope for the great outcome that was promised. But if we don't have the foundation, and I'll tell you, infiltration and co-opting in the COINTEL world is highly, highly prevalent. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. And we have to understand the lessons of our grandparents of the Great Depression, of to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And I'll talk more about that in the second half here tonight, which will open up the lines. Okay, so tonight we have just the latest on what Iran is now calling a victory. A victory, yes, no contest, no match, no mercy, no ma'am. Yeah, we'll be talking about that. Also, we'll be talking just the dangers now, as you heard there, Donald Trump, who's slapping the yarmulke that feeds him there. What does it all mean? We'll talk about just what kind of great danger he is, because I got to tell you, the more I've learned about this Mossad agency, if you didn't see last night's show, well, first of all, I should apologize for it. There was certain happy hours that I missed prior, but what you might have not seen is just how embedded the Mossad is in things in places called the Pentagon, for starters, and how deadly and dangerous they can be. They make the CIA look like Boy Scouts, I'll tell you. So we'll get into the dangers of it all. We'll get into the intel assessments, the geopolitical outcomes, and also the military strikes did really stop some dangerous nuclear facility that's going to end the world and bring down Armageddon and all kinds of just unholy things. So we'll see if the ceasefire is still in effect. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell these days, isn't it? I mean, isn't it just war is all around us, whether it's riots, missiles, Scud missiles, feast, famine, pathogens, Fauci. I mean, it's all over the place. All over the place. So I can't even tell anymore. I just assume we're just under attack. We'll get into some of the satellite images. Also, I do have some good news too. Yeah, I do. Well, some great news, and some kids were found, and it's a good kind of ordeal we'll get into at some point. And please remind me. Also, what is China doing during this time? You know, what is China doing? And well, not necessarily who they're doing, but what are they planning to do? Because they have all of our tech in their hands. Yes, they do. They have all of our tech, and it seems they're going to be doing some kind of cultural jamming, as it's being described. So we'll get into that. And then we're going to make a revisited account over there of the port of Los Angeles, that wonderful port. Then I discovered all the ships, the tanker ships, the cargo ships, they're all lined up, who, if you can recall, 5 years ago, before it was, it was just taboo. Then it was the thing to know. We have some new footage. You don't want to miss on that. But what I'm really excited about tonight, and I cannot wait to get to the real deal politics tonight, because that gives us the opportunity to really examine the very rare creature of the wild called Mark Levin. And kids, if you don't know who he is, well, it's okay. I don't think he knows either. We're going to talk about the very wild, boorish, and boring to that fact. And did I say bald too, if we can add, Mark Levin, who is now going after just everybody who is contrary to him and Netanyahu's just narrative at this point. And a lot of infighting as the conservative so-called bigwig is making his mark and he's doing his threats. And we want to be there to witness and see this because it is remarkable. It's like a lunar eclipse with a suit on. You don't want to miss that. And Margarine Green Taylor is one of his targets. We'll see what that's all about because the tide is turning. The tide is turning and the wheels are spinning. And I no longer have to hold on loosely, I must say. Also, a huge update with Tom Hanman, the man who is really just the guy who chews glass on his lunch breaks, has a huge, huge update. We might be seeing some fireworks, but then again, the 4th is just days away. But he has a firework here tonight. I want to share it with you. And then an incredible piece. I saw this. I leaped out of my skin, fell off my chair, and I did it all over again. Laura Loomer had a prank pulled on her. This is incredible. It really shows in a segment we're going to do how to make a shill. Laura Loomer is going to show us. And so if you want to take notes on that, you can be a shill like her. Some major international news as NATO summit. You don't want to miss that. And all of your comments, questions, and conjecture and criticisms. And that is something too. I've been very, very, very critiqued. And sometimes you need it. Okay, tonight we're broadcasting over there on The Real Dean Ryan on Facebook. Yes, we are. Dean Ryan TV on YouTube. Hello to everyone at the graveyard. And X, Rumble, and my favorite, Brighteon. Yes, it is. All right, let's get started now with a few headlines from around the world and in your neck of the World War III. Yes, it is. And that was the wrong intro, but it felt right. Well, let's get into it now. As the World War III updates, it's hard to keep up, but we know you can. Well, Trump versus Israel is the talk of the town, at least here at Real Deal Media University. But I think there's more to it, as now we have an assessment of what just happened. The 12-day war, at least the one that was televised, because, revolutions aren't usually. Well, Trump's one-off strike on the Iran nuclear sites follows a rare advance notification. And we've seen some rare technology and weapons, and weaponry for that fact, used by all sides. It's complicated, but we're very intelligent. Well, let me pass you the tidbits now. As the United States forewarned Iran on the nuclear strikes, aiming to limit escalation amid growing regional tensions. Yeah, so basically, a lot of this too, as at least from the U.S. involvement, it involved us shooting empty warehouses with not even a soul in there. I mean, it was basically, we had a very, very highly expensive target practice, I must say. And I don't know how I feel about it, but I still don't like it. Just don't shoot me or the messenger. Well, now the Trump administration has notified Tehran of the one-off attack on Fordo and the Shaisha facilities. And they're now looking back and saying, why did they call? And then Iran paid the favor back and they called Qatar up, the front desk, and said, well, we're going to fire some rockets back too, roughly around 3 p.m, if you don't mind. They said, okay, that should be good with us. And this is what we're learning. And it's getting even more detailed. The Trump administration informed Iran of its intent to strike 3 nuclear facilities in advance, labeling Thursday's evening's airstrikes as the one-off attack that shocked the nation and shocked an empty warehouse too, halting Tehran's weapon development without sparking a broader war. According to newly released details, and so many people who are familiar with the details, it's just that the operation targeted those 3 nuclear sites, which we dare not pronounce, and represents the U.S. government's most direct military confrontation with Iran since ordering the assassination of Soleimani in 2020. According to a senior Iranian political source who is familiar with the matters, well, he was speaking anonymously over there, that the United States delivered the warning through a third party roughly around June 21st and stressed it sought no wider conflict. So here we are, all of us thinking, and we can only base these things from what we have, the tangible evidence. I mean, I wasn't on the phone call. I don't call Iran, and Trump doesn't return my calls as much, but this was a calculated strike, and I believe this was now a way to put Israel and get Israel and put them at heel. That's right. Heel. And it's not an easy job. Well, the mission coordinated between the B-2 bombers, as you recall, a submarine launched the cruise missiles, if you recall, precision strikes to minimize the collateral damage. And now Trump claimed victory in a live address as those three sites were completely obliterated. But experts caution success remains unclear, as now the International Atomic Energy Agency declined to comment on what the hell just happened. But it's okay, because now we know, and that's all that matters. And quite frankly, we're going to find out more very soon. Well, continuing now, I just can't get enough of it, is this incredible story of just what does Netanyahu feel about this? Well, they want to continue war. As you saw in the cold opening, if you missed it, we might just hear a bit more of it again, but they're not done. They want to break the ceasefire. We have now reports of Mossad leaving little love letters at Iranian guards' family homes saying they're going to kill their wives and their kids if they don't get out of the Iranian guard and join the Mossad. Now, think about that little practice right there. You know what that's called? That's called the Bolshevik practice. If you look back at the World War II, the Stalins, the whole Russian apparatus would kill you if you didn't join their army. And we see it today happening in Ukraine. And sometimes history just doesn't repeat itself. It just doesn't stop, does it? So what a just turn of events. I don't even know how to accept that. Just a plot twist, isn't it? So continuing now, well, that's not all. That's not all, because now Tehran saying ceasefire is in jeopardy. Yes, they are. Tehran is now saying the ceasefire is in jeopardy as Israel accuses Iran of missile attacks. I told you this was going to happen. So Israel is going to do a self-inflicted missile attack on themselves to blame Iran, because they need the big daddy warbucks over here to get into the war and the arena. They want us as their tag team partner constantly. And we're like, no, we want to be a solo artist. They're like, no, you can't. Okay, well, this is what's happening. Let me tell you about this now, because it's quite interesting and riveting. Well, now the U.S. has now brokered the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, as you know. It collapsed within hours after reports of an Iranian missiles striking Israeli territory, which now Trump found out, if you saw in the cold opening, it was just a wild hair of a missile. And, you know, we've all been there. Well, both nations accused each other of violating the fragile 12-hour truce, with Israel claiming intercepted missile attacks and Iran denying responsibility while blaming Israel airstrikes. It's the blame game, but I think I know who's really to blame. Well, the conflict marks a rare shift from the proxy warfare to direct hostilities, the United States military involvement, bunker buster bombs, and Iranian retaliatory strikes on U.S.-based Qatar. Now, the casualties mounted on both sides are the following: 28 dead and 1,000 wounded in Israel alone, and 974 killed, including 387 civilians to date. Behind the scenes, talks involving U.S. officials and intermediates like Qatar struggled to salvage the ceasefire, but mutual distrust and unresolved nuclear tensions cast doubts on everlasting peace. Well, I would say so. I'd say that's a very, very fair assessment if I was a betting man, and which I am. Continuing now, well, the satellite also shows or reveals limits of Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Well, the satellite doesn't lie, and why should it be? It's not Netanyahu's satellite, is it? Well, now the satellite just reveals what we already know. The high-resolution satellite, it just reveals empty warehouses, no stockpiles, because as many people have, like Scott Ritter, the former UN's security weapons inspector has shared with us. Well, Iran has been preparing for this moment, this conflict, for a long time, for a very long time. And they're not going to find stockpiles because Iran has learned what happened to Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and even Syria, who's been handed the keys or had to hand the keys over, Basharov, to, well, what we know as Al-Qaeda, who came out of the just historical closets there. Well, continuing now, even the satellite proves what we know. Well, Iran is now declaring victory. So everybody's declaring victory except for Israel, although they kind of are, but nobody's listening. Well, let's listen to this one here because I'm quite fascinated now as Iran is declaring victory as well, because that's the theme of the season here. Well, they're declaring victory as the ceasefire forces Israel retreat, and that's how they're spinning it. Iran outlines its post-ceasefire strategy, reaffirms regional alliances now, and pledges to advance its peaceful nuclear program despite recent attacks and even foreign pressure. And it's a huge party over there. They're saying, well, the Iranian Supreme Being and National Security Council announced just yesterday that the Islamic Republic had achieved a significant strategic victory, asserting that it had forced the enemies to seek a ceasefire, which is unheard of in Israel land. It is very rare, almost as rare as the red heifer. And has anyone seen that thing? Well, citing the unity of the Iranian people, the steadfastness of its armed forces, and the guidance of its leadership, and the loving touch of their supreme leader, while the council emphasized that Iran had triumphed in the face of the Israeli Neanderthal aggression. It noted that Iran's military remains on high alert, though. They've been here before, and so have we, and prepared to respond decisively to any future provocation. Now, the council underscored that through its vigilance, Iran's calculated timing dismantled Israel's core strategy. The council declared that the outcome compelled the Israeli entities to accept defeat and halt its aggression forever. And forever, ever. And that's how they say it over there. And then this is just, I don't think we've seen warfare like this in our lifetime. And the closest thing we ever saw to it was probably Trump 1.0 when he first got in office, if you recall. Continuing now, well, I feel like declaring victory myself, don't you? Well, now Iran's cyber boogeyman is now coming. Yes, it's going to be the summer hit. It's going to sweep the country, and you don't want to miss this. Well, the cyber security hack that we've been hearing about for quite some time, well, it should be in theaters near you or a device immediately. I mean, predictive programming is too nice of a word. Well, the Department of Homeland Security is trying to give us a heads up on just what is ahead. Or are they? Well, they're now heightening the threats from Iran after U.S. strikes on nuclear facilities. I'll say it ain't so. Well, the department, the DHS rather, warns of the heightened cyber attack and violence risks from Iranian-backed groups following U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. The escalation of cyber attacks as a retaliatory fatwa is issued, targeting U.S. infrastructure like power grids and water systems. The U.S. forces have struck 3 of the sites, as we know, and now they're vowing to have payback. Well, we were just on the phone with these people. Who wants payback? That's not in the script, or is it? So hand it over now. Well, the Iranian hackers often lurk. There's Iranians now lurking in U.S. systems, waiting to strike, while pro-Iran groups have already attacked Israeli targets. A fatwa Iran supreme leader could trigger the domestic extremism, prompting law enforcement to increase security as the high-risk locations get even higher. So you got to be careful for these Iranian cyber hackers who could be lurking around the corner. They could be in your kitchen right now. I'm daring to say they will. They just might have an Israeli flag with them, but don't say I told you. Continuing now. Well, that brings us to this. Well, speaking of whatever happened to Gaza, we have to keep our eyes on the people who don't have that or a voice, or in this case, even food, even if you're a newborn. Well, I don't cover these stories much because it's very heartbreaking, but the reality and even more of it in the details, it's now pouring out like never before. was Gaza's newborns are now at risk as Israel has now blocked baby formula supplies. And this is an admitted thing from Netanyahu himself, because they don't want any future terrorists to grow large and strong. So they're going to continue their famine. And this has been happening for a long time, whether you know it or not. Well, let me tell you a bit more now, as dozens of newborns over there in the Gaza Strip are in immediate risk due to Israel's continued ban on essential medical supplies, including baby formula, pediatrician, and obstetrician as well. Most of these infants are receiving care at the hospital over there at Khan Yunis. And if you don't know, the final kind of functioning, working hospital over there in Gaza was destroyed just last week. Yeah, it's a real shame. Well, they emphasize that Israel's restrictions of the entry of food and medical aid, particularly infant formula, have now had a devastating effects on babies under 6 months old who rely entirely on formula for survival. The lack of access to this essential nutrition increases their vulnerability to diseases such as gastritis and respiratory infections. No word on when the famine blockade is going to be lifted, but let me tell you where we are now. Well, since this war of aggression, because it's not a war because there's no standing army in Gaza, I don't know if you knew. Well, since it all began, Gaza children have been targeted. About 17,121 kids have been killed amid all of these relentless strikes by the IDF. Yes, it is. It's a shame. Now, mothers, too, that's about 9,000. So, if we don't start doing the body count like they did in Vietnam and apply pressure like they did in that era, then the politicians and the people who are supposed to represent us, not that country, well, then we're the ones feeling it and it won't stop. So this is good that we're talking about it. And that's how that one is. Okay, moving on here. Well, this is now, in case you didn't know, it's now Mossad hunting season, as it now is officially open and begins. And just last night, we even shared with you what that was. Well, in fact, here is just a reminder of the breaking news I shared with you at the end of the show. Mossad chef over there, the David Barnia, reportedly killed in this week's Iranian strike over there in the Mossad HQ. There's a total blackout in the media on this story. Iran continues to target the Mossad agents and other Israeli terrorists. David Barnia, the head of Mossad, killed in an Israeli hospital bunker by Iranian forces. I should say attack. Now, isn't that the exact same thing they were accusing just everyone under the sun of doing? Of hiding behind innocent children? And they were just, their Mossad headquarters was in the hospital the whole time. Yeah, I think, and it happens quite often. But let's get to this one here, because I'm learning a lot about this agency, and I know you are as well out there. So here's what it is right now, is we have learned the following, that they're going around, they as Iranian paramilitary forces, and they're looking for these Mossad agents, and they're very hard to detect, I'll tell you. They're hard to detect, and God knows how many of them are here in the United States. Well, in a small village near Tehran, voluntary members of the Revolutionary Guard paramilitary wing, which is a very long-winded way of saying militia, well, they monitor roads and inspect vehicles, and what they say is a drive to prevent Mossad agents using the area as a base to support Israeli strikes. Yes, and they're one of the most precise agencies in the world, it said. Well, they are local, and like many of the locals, they've joined police, security forces nationwide to combat what Iranian authorities claim is a vast growing amount of espionage and its network built by the Israeli spy agency over the years. Hundreds of people, mostly Iranian, Afghan nationals, often unemployed and or working as truck drivers, according to many state media sources who are familiar, have been arrested across the country in a crackdown. Here's a quote. You now see checkpoints run by the locals alongside the police at many city entrances there in Tehran, something that didn't exist before this war with Israel took place. They usually stop SUVs, vans, trucks, searching them thoroughly for explosives, drone components, and a whole lot more. Now, kind of in a sunset way, since the Israeli strikes started this month, officials say spies allegedly hired and trained long ago have actively engaged in operations inside Iran. Officials believe Mossad's local network supported Israeli airstrikes from the ground up, providing intelligence on target locations, smuggling in drone components, and explosives used to target dozens of senior commanders and nuclear scientists. Now, operations that have underscored the depths of the Israeli infiltration. And that's just in Iran. I'd hate to see what's underneath the American rock here of just deadly spies. You know, you ever see that? You ever just pick up a rock in your backyard and you see black widows, snakes, you know, dead just things and bones? It is kind of a frightening prospect, isn't it? So Mossad is very, very much heavily involved in our daily operations, is it not? Continuing now. Well, that brings now this. I shared this on our social medias, I believe, just earlier today. And I was aghast by this. Check this out right here. Well, this is a call for the Trump assassination. Well, this is coming from an Israeli, not plural, despite the spelling errors. Well, one symbolic bomb in Washington will remind Trump that he is not a impotent person, or will he better restore our national honor. Did you hear that? So one symbolic bomb. Isn't that a tall order right there? Well, let's get into this now. Let's go back in time just a little bit, because it's interesting he mentioned bomb and the brazen arrogance of these people. But let me tell you this. Trump was told to get out of office now, if you recall, in January. He left of January 7th, 2021. Had he stayed a week later, there was going to be this symbolic bomb that you heard about there. And what this was, it was a way to force him out, because if you recall, Netanyahu was no friend. He was merely a foe and was going along with the Event 201. But there was going to be a bomb, symbolic bombs, I should say, plural, all along the East Coast. And there was going to be, it was said to be done by China. But what we found out over time, it was going to be Israel who was going to frame it on China, meaning at all the sites of the bombs, you probably would have found Chinese passports. But so here we are again. And now we know that assassination we saw last summer, which there's really been no follow-up, has there? No follow-up whatsoever. Well, we know that there was calls made and there was messages sent to where? They won't tell us. They won't tell us, you know, what does Dan Bongino know? Anyone ask him for me? I wonder. Well, here's another thing here. This is quite interesting now as we learn about all these different operations. Well, this one is a real hoot, and it's called Operation Midnight Hammer, because that's when things happen around that time. Well, let me tell you about this now as Operation Midnight Hammer is underway. It is said to be that a preliminary classified U.S. report says the American bombing of 3 nuclear sites in Iran took place. It was part of the Operation Hammer, but there was something else that they found. Nothing. Well, before the attack, the U.S. intelligence agencies knew it all. They tried to rush making a bomb. The intel coming into the U.S. agencies, not the intel from the U.S. agencies. Is that, if that's not confusing, then I have to try harder. Well, after the U.S. bombing run and days of attacks, the reported by the Defense Intelligence Agency estimated that the program had been delayed, but by less than 6 months. That's the uranium, that's the nuclear making. Now, the report also said that much of Iran's stockpile enriched uranium was moved before the strikes. And they're confirming now some Israeli officials who are highly, highly pissed off said that they also believe that the Iranian government had maintained small covert enrichment facilities so it could continue its nuclear program in event of an attack of a larger nature. And that's Operation Hammer. So what we witness is now we can describe as Operation Hammer. But I don't know about you out there, but I'm old enough to remember the original Operation Hammer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, this is the original Operation Midnight Hammer. Yes. So, you know, it just goes to show everything old is new again. And ask Paul Pelosi, and he'll tell you. Okay, there's that one. Now, continuing is, well, this is rather interesting. Well, Iran missile strikes, well, get this. It landed in an Israel biolab. Now, it's said to be here, before I show you this video here, it's said to be that this biolab wasn't just any biolab. No, it wasn't. This was definitely the biolab where a lot of our miracle jabs come from. A lot of the tech, it comes from Israel, but in this case, the biolabs were stockpiling what is said to be pathogens for the next Event 201, but also miracle jabs for the next pandemic. And this is what they have now. There's no word. Not a lot of people are covering this. We certainly are going to cover it. We had video, and I think we do now. Let's check it out.
גם כי ילך וגייס על מוות, לא אירע רק כי אתה עמדי, שבטך משמתך הימן המוני טוב ופנש לפני צהרי, וישנת בשמן ראשי כסיר ויחקו בחסד. ירדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. שהם יתו כדינים לכולם, כל הפצועים, כולם יתו בשלום בעזרת השם יברך. יהיה ישועות, 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 ישועות לכל עם ישראל, ישועות, 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 ישועות.
Isn't that something? And if you just don't know, here's some more intel on it. Well, the biolabs that were struck by Iran targeted a high security biolab that you saw there in Israel. The Israel Institute of Biological Research, the facility long shrouded in secrecy, no more, is known for its work in the miracle jab world, chemical and biological defense, advanced military research. The facility operates directly under the Prime Minister's office, with Israel insisting its work is purely defensive. Its secrecy and restricted access have fueled years of speculation about its possible annihilation. How do you like that? Well, whatever happened to China during this World War III, where are they? Do we miss them or do they miss us? Well, we're going to find out now. Well, China is now doing a new thing called China signal jamming. And the kids love this. If you don't know what it is quite the talk of the town. But let me tell you a tad more about it now. The signal jamming is really the thing that's sweeping the nation, because China, who has their eyes on Taiwan, well, they want to make sure we don't know about it, and they want to jam our signal from finding what they're doing. Well, the Department of Homeland Insecurities over there warns of a surge in China-made signal jammers smuggled into the United States, probably through Seattle and probably through the Starbucks restaurantes everywhere. Well, the United States Department of the Homelands, that is quite unconstitutional, if you might add, well, has reported about 830% increase in the seizure of China-made signal jammers at the United States border since 2021, warning that these devices are being smuggled in via sophisticated methods. And yes, if you can use your imagination, it's probably doing that too. Well, the DHS has linked signal jammers to crimes by foreign nationals, including home invasions, bank robberies in multiple states. Now, the devices are used to block emergency calls and law enforcement communications during such incidents. So, in a time of unrest, if you can imagine, when you need an emergency and help the most, you're not going to be able to get through to anyone. And that's what these little suckers can do. And I'm quite fascinated by it. Well, although civilian use of signal jammers is illegal in both countries, some say you can get it at Radio Shack, but that's yet to be seen. And DHS believes the Chinese manufacturers are targeting black markets in the United States through disguised shipments. Would China really do that? I can't believe that. That's so foreign to me. Well, the Federal Communications Commission now strictly prohibits the use, sale, or even the marketing of jamming devices under the federal law, citing major public safety risk, including interference with 911 calls, as we mentioned, emergency responder communications, and just other things we've yet to discover. Now, if you're thinking about getting one out there, let me tell you the penalties for it. They're saying the violations could lead up to fines all the way up to $112,000 per offense, criminal charges, equipment seizure, and public safety duty. Yeah, well, I canceled my plans. I'm definitely not getting that this year. Signal jammers no more. World War III. It seems to be diffusing. Do we feel the just winds coming back and they're not howling? Well, here's a last story here of World War III. Now, military tanks have been spotted at the ports of Los Angeles over there in Long Beach. It's the biggest port in the country. Can you believe it? Over there in California. But when we saw the cargo ships and all of the cages in the beginning of the pandemic, well, there's a little twist in a simple twist of fate on these ones. Well, check this out. There's now tanks in LA. And who are these tanks for? Exactly. And who are they working for is another thing. Well, check this out. Ports of Los Angeles. Well, there it is. There's the Port of LA. You have the 405 freeway right there. Just about a mile away, if less than that, you have the Port of Long Beach, which is I believe, the second largest port. You have all the freshly washed tanks in an empty warehouse, maybe. And I don't know what car lot they're going to be selling those at. So we're going to keep our eye on the prize for that one. It's just amazing how these things work out. Let's get to some real deal politics, shall we? Real deal politics. I've been waiting for this my whole life here, particularly tonight. Is now there's a sea change. The tide has changed, but our attitude, bad or not, and our will and might has only increased. We get this now. Marjorie Greene Taylor is now taking her gloves off, and she's noticing things. Well, look at this. Well, U.S. Congresswoman Greene, they call her, says American President JFK was assassinated in 1963, but wait, for opposing Israel's nuclear program. Did she not get the memo? She's not allowed to say that. What has gotten into this woman? Oh, well, she did say it. Well, she said a whole lot more too. Well, a lot of people are pissed. We'll get this. Here's another one here. Mark Levin is now pissed after seeing that. And I'm going to tell you why, but she didn't stop just there. She went even further in her little diatribes. Well, check this out. As Marjorie is now going for the touchdown, and she is really going guns a-blazing.
Tell you what, 6 months in, Steve, and here we are turning back on the campaign promises, and we bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. Yes, it was on behalf of Israel. We're entering a nuclear war, the World War III, because the entire world is going to erupt. And you want to know the people that are cheering it on right now? Their tune is going to drastically change the minute we start seeing flag draped coffins on the nightly news, on Fox News that brainwashes all the baby boomers, and on CNN that brainwashes all the Democrat baby boomers. And that is exactly how this is going to go down.
That was a anti-brainwashing public service announcement. Thank you, Marjorie. Well, a lot of people are pissed off about that, as I was previewing. And it goes to show that we have to have the discourse. And for future situations, yes, we need to be pressuring these people. But according to Mark Levin, it's not enough. Yes, the not so great one is now speaking in a very, very unflattatory tone. Well, look at what he's saying here. Well, he's saying, MTG, God, you are stupid. Are you? And you keep banging your head against the wall. Thankfully, the POTUS ignored you and hit the Iranian nuclear sites. Well, has anyone told either of these two that it was an empty warehouse now for the Operation Midnight Hammer? Is he not in tone or in tune with Operation Midnight Hammer? We know he's in tune with the hammer, but is it at midnight? Well, thankfully, he hit the nuclear sites. You seem very upset about it, and I'm not going away. You are on my radar. What a stalker this guy is. What a creepy guy. And I mean, who even pays attention? But he has a lot of influence in the DC Beltway, and that's why he needs to be covered. But he is such a creeper. And it makes me very upset. And I had a video about him, but I can't seem to find it at the moment. But Mark Levin is his influence is dissipating, and MTG's is growing. In this next clip of Mark Levin, supposedly, you're going to see just the vitriol And you could add his vitriol and add it to the Fox News playbook here. And you're going to hear this here in a second. And you're going to understand just the barriers, the gatekeepers, the peer pressure, the blackmail, the shilling that's right before our eyes. You're going to see just how deep it goes, because it's deep enough to where it's right in our face, yet we can't see it. And these people are getting pissed. And the danger is the desperation. Check this out.
The truth, too. So we have a ceasefire. I hate this word ceasefire. I really do. The president hated it a few days ago, too. What's needed now is this, in my humble opinion. Iran should be forced to sign a surrender document, unconditional surrender. They lost their nukes. They've lost their air force. They have no ground-to-air protection. China didn't step in. Russia didn't step in. Not a single Arab country stepped in. The supreme Nazi is hiding in a bunker, much like Adolf Hitler did. Adolf Hitler wasn't thrown a lifeline. He wasn't thrown in a lifeline. He was going to be killed, so he committed suicide. I'm very much interested in seeing how this plays out. I really am. Because what does an agreement look like? Does that mean...
If I put you to sleep there, I do apologize for that. Sometimes you need a little lullaby around this hour. But you see what's going on here? And Fox News, and just by magic, we're trying to get Tucker Carlson to run in 2024 against Trump, and that backfired. But this is kind of the environment of the just the neocon conservative apparatus. They want to bring you to heel if you choose to speak up. And when you're a nice little doggy, and they got little blackmail on you, and you're the kind of person that wears the Fredericks of Hollywood, well, if you are, then you're this guy right here.
So what do we do now? Israel has had it. I talked to the Prime Minister yesterday before I went on television, and I asked him, what would you like me to tell America, Bibi? He said 3 things. We're profoundly grateful to the American people for what you do to help the Jewish state. We couldn't be here without you. We're profoundly grateful to President Trump for his strong leadership. He also wanted me to urge the people of Iran to seize the moment to end the nightmare you've been living. And the third thing he wanted me to tell the American people is Israel is not going to live this way anymore. They're not going to raise their children in bomb shelters. They're not going to have their life interrupted daily by ballistic missiles coming from religious Nazis who want to kill all the Jews like Hitler. They're not going to put up with that. Regime change is coming to Iran, one or two ways. The regime renounces what they've been doing since 1979 and change course, or it's replaced. To expect Israel to do anything else is offensive to me.
Look how offended he gets. Yeah, that's offensive. That's offensive. Is that even legal that we have a senator, a representative, just taking calls and then just hitting us over the head? I can't even stand it. Anyways, we got to take this quick break. I just saw the school clock. I'm losing myself here tonight in the inner depths here of this incredible show. But when we get back, we're going to get into just a little more Real Deal politics. But Real Deal International is going to get us to the NATO summit. And there was a hot mic, and you got to be careful you say hot mic around this guy. He gets really, really hot. But there is a conversation that was picked up between Trump and Erdogan over there in Turkey. We're going to see if we can try to read lips and be little good Mossad spies ourselves here tonight in our Mossad training. As you're watching World at War, #1 late night show. We'll be back after this quick message.
Positive really is an amazing company. Not only do they have these emergency pet kits, but they also have these supplements here. And this is human grade, okay? This is human grade, and I just want to show you now. I'm going to actually do this live on air so you can see for yourself, okay? 100% human grade ingredients is what it says here on the package. And the ingredients are Alberta grass finish.
Jim, you want to change your vote? You can still do it at this
No,
time.
no, I want to say we have a wonderful pizza place here called Sugar River Pizza, and they've got specialty pizzas that are to die for. I want to mention two in particular. One called ricotta, be kidding me, red sauce, pepperoni, sausage, whipped herb, ricotta, and oregano, and kicking horse for alarm. Red sauce, pepperoni, sausage, jalapenos, red onion, pepper jack. Those are two unbelievably good pizzas.
Oh, I think I split my shorts. We're back on. Gonna get a new pair of shorts, please. Pronto. All right, let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. This is still RDM here, your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. And yeah, that was, I've never played accordion before. And how great was that? What a memory. What a memory. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Real Deal Media Night Owls. Yes, have you heard about it? Have you heard about it? What a sensational night it was last night. And I would say the past 2 weeks backstage for our extensive coverage of everything World War III. And you can join me and the other Crusaders here as we go Mossad hunting as the season is ripened for it. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv. It's so simple these days. Isn't it, members? Do you like the new website? I hope so. I hope so. Because, I got to tell you, the web host, Wix, if you don't know, is based in Tel Aviv, and I found myself getting extremely shadow banned following October 7th, and that's no joke, sadly. Also, tonight is brought to you by you, the viewers out there who want to keep this going, keep Real Deal Media going, broadcast going in the face of shadow banning, censorship, deadly threats, empty promises, and better tomorrows. All you got to do is go to givesendgo.com/realdealgo. And if you do, when you get there, name drop me if they ask. So thank you in advance. Fuels the operation. Okay. Well, we have some unfinished business. There's so many stories that I probably could do a 4-hour show like the old days. But we'll see how I feel about that. There's some other things going on here. And I want to mention it right off the bat is in this Great Awakening and, sectors of it here as we find the infiltration in this country, whether it's Israel, China, or who knows, even Mexico for that fact. And certainly in LA, that's the case. Well, you got to know and understand and, congratulate the people who aren't part of the big hustle, the big plot. And it just continues. So let's do a bit more of some real deal politics, because I can't get enough of it. Can you? Well, they did some more studies here, and look at what we found here. Well, we have Marjorie Green Taylor, who is definitely the woman of the hour and the night this evening. Well, there's a track you can go. It's called Track APAC. Well, it appears that she's not on Track APAC. She has $0. So you could do that at home. Go to Track APAC, as you saw there, and you'll see Marjorie is pretty clean and probably disease-free too. Well, here's another one here. Here we have Luna, who's now coming alive. Luna, who is Alyssa Milano's stand-in double. Well, she says Congressman Paulina Luna warns Israel that, quote, if our allies violate a ceasefire negotiated by President Donald Trump, they do not deserve our aid or our assistance. I would even add our friendship as well. But what do they need our aid and assistance for? I mean, look at what they've done with with Daddy's just credit card here all these years. Ungrateful, and they killed the president and attacked a ship. Come on. Who are they kidding? Who are they kidding? I don't even know what to say. Well, here's another one here as we get closer to a huge announcement by Tom Hunman, who has really been doing the journeyman's work in this revival and has been getting clogged in the court system that's highly constipated legally, that is, and he has new announcements. He made some hints about something called mass arrest. I don't know if you heard about it or seen it, but Tom Hunman, who I have incredible troubles with that very simple name, well, he's now hinting at these arrests, which you're going to see here in a second. They're coming. Coming where? Well, he's coming for government officials in this clip. Sanctuary cities after the Trump EO. Executive order. Hunman did the same thing before he went to Wisconsin and New Mexico. Judges were arrested, actual judges. He said it couldn't be done. He said, don't believe me, just watch, as now he's going to tell us about a new warning that's up ahead. And there, I'm getting word to pay attention to the grin, because that's how Tom communicates. Check this out.
So the president signed an executive order just this week threatening to defund sanctuary cities for their policies. Why not just arrest the leaders who are harboring and shielding illegal aliens, actually terrorists, from deportation?
Wait to see what's coming.
It was so quick. Did you see that grin? It was pretty quick, wasn't it? So he said, wait till you see what's coming. So this is what the mass arrests look like, because they have to harbor their henchmen, the Democrat Party. And that's how we see it. Let's get to some real deal international, shall we? When I was, this is like the biggest time of the year for NATO. Yes, it is. It's been called the Oscars, the Emmys of Europe, as the NATO summit is upon us. And that brings us just to that. Well, Real Deal International takes us overseas, is now the NATO summit, the who's who, the gossip, the what are you wearing, and the who are you killing lately is all kind of the dinner table discussions currently actively happening. Well, who's going to be there? That's the other thing we want to know. Who's attending the NATO summit this year? And what's on the agenda, and what's the soup du jour while you're at it? Well, leaders of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that rickety old organization that just doesn't seem to quit, well, include several European countries, just to update you. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada are just amongst the few of the all-stars there this year, are gathering this week over there at Hague, Netherlands. Well, this yearly summit amid Russia's continued war in Ukraine and the Israeli dramas, they've said, and the uncertainty about Washington's failure in the alliance, because we might be exiting this very, very unpopular kind of format. Well, the NATO summit, which started yesterday and lasts a whole of 2 days, is the first to be attended by Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump, since he took the office in January. Well, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and the former Dutch Prime Minister will also be at the meeting. Now, this is what to expect, because that's what I'm all about. I'm not really into the bling, all the stuff they try to present, but this is what they're expecting to talk about: the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine, yes. Or as Zelensky calls it, his salary money, lunch money, or other. It's the issue of how much member states are spending in the collective defense for Zelensky and that war that just doesn't seem to stop because he keeps violating ceasefires. Well, a contentious point in the particular point for U.S. President Donald Trump has long argued that the United States shoulders too much of the financial burden and wants others to raise their defense spendings, meaning we keep paying the bar tab every time Zelensky says, let's go out. Well, but the ongoing conflict now of Israel and Iran also made kind of the topics as of late. It could shadow the summit. Now, who else is attending? We know about Canada. We know about the U.S. Well, it's said to be that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carnage, Trump, and French President and current tranny lover Emmanuel Macron, and Chancellor over there in Germany, Friedrich Merz, Italy, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro, and even Erdogan himself, and yes, Viktor Orban, a hometown favorite here, and even Zelensky, if you can believe it. And he has an assassination hit that's been placed on him. What's he doing there? I can't even imagine. Well, here's a little clip of Trump in the middle, and try to see if you can make out what he's saying to Erdogan, because we'll have a little detail of what's to come if you can. And I certainly think I did as well. Check this out. The United States, or United Nations, the NATO alignment, the summit is here. Here it is.
That's not allowed. You know it.
Can we take photos for the president?
Nope. They're posed.
Donald, you're my friend. Say cheese. Zelensky, he must go. He's a piece of shit. So is Netanyahu. He's a piece of shit too. You done? It was very interesting. It sounds like they were talking about getting rid of Zelensky is kind of what I took from that. I don't know if you heard that as well. That's some serious stuff there. Very bold moves are being had there. Well, continuing now, let's get back to order here. As now, the son of the Shah of Iran is trying to make a statement. You know, we were the first to tell you, and I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of it. But yes, he's coming around again. And his father was the Shah, if you don't know. And he's trying to get some press. He has a PR company. He's lived in London. He pretends to live in Iran. He has just a summer home in Tel Aviv, or did until this week. I mean, this is the guy we've been telling you about since our EU insider told you, and all of us, that the son of the Shah is coming back. Well, that's just it. Even the Iron Sheikh knows it too, as it wouldn't be fair if he wasn't involved. And don't we know it here? Well, he wants to be the new leader of Iran, and he made his claim. Why? Well, he gave a speech proclaiming that the Islamic Republic's end was near. He was going to shred them to pieces, body slam them into oblivion. And he said, this is our Berlin Wall moment. So everybody's a big talker around here. Everybody's declaring victory, and they're going to tell you how they're going to destroy you, only to destroy empty warehouses and flaccid dreams at this point. Well, they've said he's dressing to the nine. He's dressing to the T in a Caddyshack kind of way. And he says, imagine a new Iran with me leading the free and somewhat democratic Iran and Republic for peace with our neighbors and the engine of growth and opportunity and a healthy supply of cocaine and Viagra. And that's just all he wants. Well, his name is Pahlavi, and he sounds like a presidential contender giving a campaign speech. That's because, in a sense, Mr. Pahlavi, first name Reza, is running to be just that, Iran's next leader. Well, the exiled crown prince has been criticizing the country's Islamic autocracy since He went to exile almost 5 decades ago, if you can believe it. But in the recent years, he's become increasingly vocal and increasingly insistent that he should lead the pivot. He should lead the march. He wants to be the leader. He wants to be the lead singer. It's his party. Well, here's a quote. I am stepping forward to lead this national transition. I have a clear plan that I just can't tell you about it just yet. Well, that is, I mean, it's now official. There's no speculation. There's no speculation whatsoever going forward. This is the man that's going to do it. If you don't know who he is, there he is right there. Well, that's his father on the right. And that's kind of his father on the left, too, if I had to imagine. Isn't that something? Okay. Continuing now as we forge ahead here. Well, that leaves us to England. Well, whatever happened to Starmer? Well, Starmer's getting in the mix, too, because he's a big man. He's a big man, and he also pretends to play one as well when he's not wearing a wig because he gets the rent boys from Tel Aviv. Did you hear? Separate issue, but very important and relevant. Well, now UK is now getting involved and defends U.S. action over there in Iran and calls for a de-escalation because he can't seem to de-escalate the just radical Islamic backed by MI5 in his country, but why not call it out elsewhere? Well, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, I say sir very lightly, said the United States had helped the alleviating threat of the nuclear capability of Tehran. Their position and their force, as great as it might be, is the direction we should all look to. And you know, if it's all about just blowing up warehouses, and then why not? I mean, we should all be at war, shouldn't we? Well, Keir Starmer, the prime minister over there in England, has defended the U.S. President Donald Trump's actions in the Middle East and has called for Iran and Israel to get back to a fragile ceasefire brokered overnight. Well, what's he asking Iran for? He's got to talk to Israel. Doesn't he know? Well, Prime Minister said that the U.S. had helped alleviating the threat of nuclear capabilities for Tehran. Thus, we don't know the nuclear capabilities of Israel because nobody has inspected the country. Well, the ministers have been in pains to stress that Britain was not involved in the attacks. They swear they were out that night and they have an alibi ready to go, but they're ready to answer the call if it were to happen again. And this is what they're talking about in the NATO summit. Now, asked on his visit to The Hague over there in Netherlands, where he's having a grand old time with Zelensky at his Hague, well, he said he personally felt safe with Mr. Trump in the White House and nearby. The Prime Minister told Channel 5 News over there in the BBC that, quote, look, I think that we've seen the last few days of the American alleviating a threat to nuclear weaponry by the Iranians, bringing about a ceasefire about early hours of today. I think I know what needs to happen now. By golly, it needs to be maintained, and that will be the focus of our attention. Engagement discussions, because the ceasefire provides the space for negotiations that need to take place. So he learned the definition of negotiations on Wikipedia, and he's just reinforcing that he learned something. So thank you, Starmer. Just totally wild, totally wild. Well, that brings it to that. Now, this one, this next story here, this goes to show of all the shills we talk about in government. Well, certainly that applies to media as well. And you can't talk about shills and not talk about, well, Laura Loomer, who I've been just very fond of including in the shows lately. Well, she's now part of a new series called How to Make a Shill. In this next clip, you're going to see a prank, not gone wrong, but gone right. As some activists who wanted to sponsor her and wanted to see if they can get her to do anything. Well, they wanted to sponsor her by saying they had a new food item, as you can see there, the dog food, and they said it's edible for humans and dogs too. Now, what Laura Loomer doesn't know is that it's only edible and its only recommended consumption are for dogs themselves, which is probably why she started eating it. Only if she knew. We'll discuss after.
Positive really is an amazing company. Not only do they have these emergency pet kits, but they also have these supplements here. And this is human grade. Okay. Okay, this is human grade, and I just want to show you now. I'm going to actually do this live on air so you can see for yourself, okay? 100% human grade ingredients is what it says here on the package, and the ingredients are Alberta grass-finished bison liver, Alberta grass-finished bison heart, Alberta grass-finished kidney. These are the same type of nutrients that you can find in the beef organs that you purchase for yourself, right? But Canada, so that means that there's no hormones, there's no vaccines given to the bison, so you could actually share these nutrients with your animals. So you could eat this yourself, and I'm going to show you. This isn't a gimmick. This is not just some trash dog food from China. Okay, these are supplements, and these are products that are so healthy and natural that you could actually eat it yourself. So you can see here, positive bison. It clearly says dog food topper, and I'm going to put this in my mouth right now. So it tastes like meat, and maybe that is disgusting to you, but I'll show you right here. Look, this is the bison product right here. It clearly says dog food topper.
What a great actress.
You can see on camera. Actually tastes good. I'm not going to lie. So 100% human grade ingredients, nutrition for your dog in every bite. It's so healthy that you could even eat it yourself.
Oh my God, that's How to Make a Show with Laura Loomer coming to NBC this fall. And it just tastes so good. Thank you, Laura. We'll make sure to tune in for that. What a shill she is. She is only the the perfect one to play such a role for the new upcoming series. Would you eat dog food out there, or would you not even look into a product you're trying to sell people and just pretend you liked it? She just ate like Alpo dog food. What a hussy. What is wrong with her? Oh, lost my appetite too. I know. Well, that's going to bring us to Real Deal. Well, actually, you know what? I won't tell you. There is so much information coming out of the NATO summit. We're now getting word that Trump is now talking about a huge trade deal with Russia. What kind of preview can we get from that? Here's a little glimpse of what's underway at the NATO summit.
I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" I said, "No, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you." And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia.
Yeah, we're getting close. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Because there's no better vodka than the ones that come out of Moscow. Well, it's going to bring us to Real Deal Health as Dr. Ryan is on call, calling all pagers.
Paging Dr. Ryan.
Well, we know culture changes, and so does the appetite of other people around you, companies, but in this case, intimacy. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. As a new study you're going to hear about, and we need to understand as the robots and AI and people are just hidden away in their dark caves, whether it's the man cave or it's the back of their car or wherever they be, people are losing the human connection, and especially the human touch, and it's a real thing. Well, now Americans are afraid of intimacy. It can be said, it can be boldly said now, as a new study has come out. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans want to break from physical intimacy. Who would have ever thought? That's 25% of Americans. I don't even know. I thought you had to have a little, I won't even go there, but let me tell you just a little bit more about this now. Well, intimacy is now in question, as more than half of single people would rather fall in love with life than with another person. And sometimes you can't blame them because you've just gotten a raw deal, a just bad deck of cards constantly, and you have psychotic killers who are trying to end you. Well, then you might want to fall in love with life. But in this case, it's not about anyone I know. It's about 24% of Americans want a break from sexual activity. Now, this is where I find hard to believe. Is that really the case? 24%. Okay. 1/2 have already taken extended breaks from averaging of 6 months. Okay, I can believe that. Well, now they're saying 30% believe romance is dead. 30% of Americans believe that. while 69%, that's 69% of single Americans are content on being single and not actively looking for relationships. That's true. Now, Americans see intimacy as only 37% of it is about sex and 57% about emotional understanding, with expressing intimacy through non-sexual ways. Now, that may sound mythical to some of you out there, but to a whole host of others, it doesn't. Now, out of the 2,000 adults who were conducted for this research, well, this is what they're saying. Respondents cited motivations such as wanting to learn other forms of intimacy, like needing, quote, time for the body and mind to catch up, time for prioritizing emotional closeness and over physical connection. Yeah, so they want emotional bonding and that kind of connection beforehand. And is this a study of old women? Are they sure men were at this? Unless it's the men of today, the younger men, that is. Now, the findings suggest these shifting values around love, relationships, and a whole host of other things. Nearly a third, 30% that is, of respondents said they believe that romance indeed is dead, expressing concerns that genuine love and romantic gestures have lost their place in modern life. And that's just a thing of the past. So in closing, a lot of the studies, the students in this case for the study, well, they're saying they want to redefine intimacy finally, as Americans increasingly view it as extending far beyond the sexual activities or the conclaves. On average, respondents believe that 37% of the intimacy is physical, 57% comes from personal understanding and emotional connection. Which, what exactly is that? Because guys, right now, I don't even know what that is. They're saying cuddling, holding hands, verbal affirmations, sharing meals, spiritual conversations, thoughtful gestures like buying gifts or brushing your partner's hair is a form of intimacy. Well, that's just a load of you-know-what if I've ever heard it. What say you out there? Is this really a thing? Because when I think of intimacy, I think of, well, you know, what is it? Fishnets out there. That's a form of it. What do you think out there? We have Kim all the way in San Diego saying the following: emotional rescue. Well, that is quite intimate of you. Thank you for sharing. And because you share, that is quite intimate of you, Kim. Thank you. Here's another one. We have Aussie Girl that says, my kids and grandkids are so busy. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing. People are too busy for relationships. That's what we're finding out. Okay. Here's Nigel Dyer, who is a real lover in his own right. He said that in the last days, the love of many will grow cold. Well, some of us like it cold and some of us like it hot. And finally, we have Mr. Watland, who's the Cupid of Iowa. He says, hugs, not drugs. Well, that is a daily affirmation to live by, isn't it? I think so. Anyways, that's going to lead us now to our wonderful intimate of you. Do you like the sweet nothings of whispers? I thought that was quite intimate, and I'm practicing. Well, as we close the night of Trump versus Israel, you know, I close tonight thinking that no matter the intent of world leaders who we really don't know what the outcome is going to be, we're heard whispers, rumors, previews, televangelists even, they tell us what it's going to be and how it's going to go. But regardless of all that, we have to stay true to one thing that's tangible, one thing that can't be coerced, and one thing that cannot be infiltrated, reversed, or forgotten about. And that's the United States Constitution, based off the Magna Carta. And the people outside of the United States need to rediscover the Magna Carta, legalize it, because ultimately, no matter the person who's in charge, whether they're legitimate, not legitimate, a real Roman or even a Trojan horse, well, you can't fake out, you can't psych out, you can't pontificate what is the stone tablatures of each and every American and people who share that same sentiment around the world. And that is the Bill of Rights and the United States Constitution that will keep us free and get us free again and ultimately free at last. That's how that one goes. Okay. It's just one of those nights. I will be back tomorrow night with some Real Deal Media Live. You don't want to miss that. We'll have some surprises, and we'll make sure we have our breathalyzers there at the door so we don't have any mishaps. But I want to thank all of you for watching here, World at War, and who have made this possible and keep us going in the face of censorship, in the face of all the saturation. You have made this the #1 late night show and your show, most importantly. So for all of us here, I'm Dean Ryan, and thank you for sharing this moment. And until next time, please remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody.